Have you ever dreamed of leaving everything behind to explore the unknown? To follow your heart, even when danger lies ahead?
This is the story of two siblings, my brother and me, who dared to chase our dreams. A tale of survival, courage, and unexpected friendship.
If you love adventure, bravery, and unforgettable stories, stick around and join us on this journey.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more thrilling tales like this one. Let's dive into the adventure together.
Chapter 1, Family.
Before we begin, let us introduce ourselves.
We are David and Tina, twins born just a few minutes apart. We've always shared everything: our home, our dreams, and even the way we see the world.
Our bond is unshakable, and though we're different in some ways, together, we make a perfect team.
Through this story, you'll hear our voices as one, sharing the experiences and adventures that shaped us.
We were born in England in the year 1632. Our father came from Germany, and our mother was English.
Together, they built a happy and loving family. We had two brothers and one sister, and we all grew up in a warm and caring home.
Our father was a smart and hardworking man. He was a businessman who worked hard to make money.
And because of that, we lived a comfortable life. We had everything we needed: good food, nice clothes, and a lovely house.
We also went to a good school, so we received a good education.
Life was good, but deep inside us, we had a dream. We wanted something different.
We wanted to explore the world and travel across the sea.
We dreamed of visiting faraway places, meeting new people, and seeing things we had only heard about in stories.
Our father, however, didn't agree with us. He was a kind and loving man, but he had different plans for our lives.
He wanted us to stay safe, build steady careers, and live quiet, stable lives.
He thought traveling by sea was dangerous and unnecessary.
He cared for us and wanted the best for us, but our dream was not his dream.
When we turned 18, our father called us into his room. His face was serious, and we could tell he had something important to say.
We sat down, feeling both nervous and excited. We knew this was going to be a big conversation, one that could change our lives forever.
He asked us some questions. He wanted to know why we wanted to travel by sea.
Then our father told us that traveling by sea is very dangerous. It is not easy or comfortable, and people can die. As he spoke, our father began to cry.
We thought about what he said. He was right. Traveling by sea is dangerous. It is not comfortable, and we could lose our lives.
But it is also very exciting. We could visit new countries and meet new people.
Every day, we kept thinking about traveling by sea. It was hard to stay at home because our dream was so strong.
We tried to talk to our mother. We told her, we really want to travel by sea. We want to see the world.
We asked her, please help us talk to Father.
Maybe with your help, we can go. Our mother loved us very much, but she agreed with our father. She also thought traveling by sea was too dangerous.
She believed it was better for us to stay at home. She thought life in England was the best for us.
A year later, we went to Hull, a town in England. It was the 1st of September in the year 1651. While we were there,
We met our friend. His father owned a ship. They traveled by sea very often, and their next journey was to London.
our friend said to us, "Come with us."
We thought about it. We weren't ready for this journey, but we wanted to try.
We wanted to see if traveling by sea was right for us. So, we decided to go to London.
We were very excited. It was our first time traveling by sea, and we felt so happy.
At first, everything was wonderful. The first hour was great. But then we had problems.
A storm appeared, and it came closer and closer. The wind became stronger and stronger, and the waves grew bigger and bigger.
The ship started going up and down.
We were very scared. We thought about our family and wondered if we had made the right choice.
We thought about our home and our comfortable beds. We missed them so much.
By morning, the storm was over.
The weather was calm and sunny all day, and the evening was beautiful.
Everything felt so quiet and peaceful.
Later, a man came to talk to us. He told us some jokes, and they were very funny.
Then he asked us about the weather. We told him how scared we were during the storm.
"What storm?" he said. "You mean the little wind?" He laughed loudly. Then he offered us a drink.
We drank a lot and soon we felt drunk. That night, we slept very well. The next day,
We didn't think about our home or our comfortable beds anymore. We started to dream about the adventures we could have.
for the next 3 days, the wind wasn't good and we moved very slowly.
Then the wind became stronger and we started to go faster.
But the next day, another storm came. This storm was bigger than the first one.
We were very scared, and we could see that the other men were scared too.
Chapter 2: The Storm.
We were so afraid that we stayed in our beds. We couldn't do anything else.
When we looked out of the window, we saw the waves. They were huge, like mountains.
We saw other ships in the distance. They looked so small, like toys.
The waves tossed them around as if they were nothing.
We thought about home again. We wanted to go back to our safe and quiet life.
This storm was much bigger than the first one, and it felt like it would never end.
Everyone asked God for help. Then someone saw a hole in the ship. Water was coming in fast. It was a very bad situation.
Many men went down to get the water out. We were so scared we couldn't move.
But then one man told us to go down and help. So we went down and we got the water out.
Then we heard a gunshot. It was a signal from our captain that we had a big problem. We thought we had no hope. Our ship was very broken. We thought it was our last day. We worked very hard to get the water out.
But the hole was very big and more water was coming into the ship. The weather got better, but the ship was full of water.
We needed help. We saw another ship ahead. They sent a small boat to save us. The men on the small boat risked their lives for us.
We all got on the small boat, but we couldn't go back to their ship because it was too far. 15 minutes later, our big ship went underwater.
We were safe on the small boat, but we were still very scared. We saw land and tried to get closer to it.
We got closer and closer to the beach. Soon, we saw people from a nearby village. They waited for us and were very nice.
They helped us and gave us some money. We could go to London or Hull. We chose to go to London and traveled there by land.
When we were in London, we met a captain who was very kind. He offered us a chance to travel with him. The captain wanted to go to Africa. We thought we could make some money there.
The captain told us about the business in Africa. He explained what to buy in England and what people in Africa needed.
We bought items that were popular in Africa. They were cheap in England but expensive in Africa because no one made them there, even though people needed them. Then we began our journey.
The trip to Africa was successful, and we returned to England with some money. We were happy and wanted to travel more and do more business.
We also wanted to learn how to control the ship. The captain taught us the basic skills. We decided to go to Africa again.
The journey started well, but soon we had big problems.
We had big problems. A ship started to follow us. It was a pirate ship. It began in the morning, and by the afternoon, the pirates were very close.
They attacked us and tried to connect our ships. We pushed them away, but they attacked again and succeeded.
Many men came onto our ship during the second attack.
They began breaking everything. Some of our men were killed and others were injured. We couldn't win.
So we stopped fighting and all became prisoners of the pirates.
Chapter 3. Woman.
We were young and strong.
We became slaves to the pirate captain. We felt very sad. Slaves had a terrible life and had to work hard. We worked every day for many hours.
Either in the house or in the garden. The captain told us what to do. We didn't like the work and wanted to change our situation. We wanted to be free again.
One day, we met a young woman in the house. She was very beautiful and also a slave.
She cleaned the house. We tried to talk to her, but she didn't speak our language. Still, we felt that she understood us. We like her very much.
She was very attractive. When she saw us,
She smiled. Sometimes she touched us when she was close, but only for a short moment. If the captain saw it,
he could send her away. We thought about her often. We wanted to see her every day, but she wasn't always in the house.
when we thought about her, we felt a nice feeling in our hearts. We thought we loved her. It felt like she is my girlfriend and him his boyfriend. But our relationship was complicated. Slaves couldn't have relationships. It was very sad. The captain sometimes took us with him to catch fish. A young boy helped him too.
We used a small boat. Sometimes one of his friends came with us. One day, there was fog around our boat.
We couldn't see anything and got lost. We tried to find land all day and night.
We reached land the next morning. When we got back, the captain told us to use a bigger boat. The bigger boat was better for long trips. One day,
The captain told us to put more food and drinks on the boat. He told us to bring some guns too. He was waiting for important guests who wanted to fish and hunt.
but the guests never came. Then the captain told us to prepare the boat for fishing the next day. This was our chance to run away.
There were many guns and food on the boat. We prepared the boat for fishing as usual, but left the guns and food on it. The next day we could run away.
We thought about the young woman. We wanted to take her with us, but we didn't know how to do it.
It wasn't possible to take her on the boat. We were sad and didn't know what to do. We wanted to be free, but our hearts wanted to be with her.
Then the morning came. We hoped to see the young woman in the house. Then we saw her. She was the most beautiful woman in our lives. When we looked at her, our eyes met.
She knew something was different. Maybe she understood this was our last moment together. She looked deeply into our eyes and touched our hands.
We felt that she understood. Her face was sad, and ours were too. She smiled at us a little, then went away.
That was the last time we saw her. 1 hour later, we were ready. The boy and we went to the boat. One of the captain's friends came with us.
He was our boss for the day.
Chapter 4, Lion.
Soon, we were far from the land. We pretended we couldn't catch fish, so we went further from the land. Our boss said we could catch fish there.
At one moment, our boss went to the front of the boat. We quickly pushed him into the sea. He tried to swim back, but we took a gun. When he saw the gun, he swam away. We turned to the boy to see if he was on our side. He was.
After 2 years, we were finally free. We went as fast as we could. The wind was good, and by the next day, we were far from the pirate land.
But we were still scared of the pirates. We didn't want to be caught again.
We were so scared that we didn't let the boy stop the boat for 5 days. On the sixth day, we felt safer. We took the boat close to the land.
We saw a small river. We didn't know where we were. We needed fresh water, so we had to stop somewhere.
We waited until it was dark to go up the river where the water wasn't mixed with seawater.
But then we started to hear scary noises. The boy didn't want to go on because he was scared. We stayed on the boat near the river, but we couldn't sleep. Some animals came to wash in the water, making frightening sounds.
The boy was very scared, and so were we. We heard one animal swimming towards us. The boy wanted to leave, but we didn't want to go. We took a gun.
We shot at the animal. It turned and swam to the land. The other animals heard the gun and went away too.
We stayed on the boat until morning. We ate bread in the morning.
Then the boy said he wanted to go to the beach. We decided to go with him. We had 2 big bottles for water.
We took some fresh water from the river. The boy wanted to go inland, but we didn't want to go far.
We still wanted to see the boat, so we stayed on the beach. The boy went inland alone. He came back after some time with an animal in his hand. It looked like a chicken. He was very happy, and so were we.
We had good meat and fresh water. We didn't know exactly where we were, just that we had gone around the coast of Africa.
We hoped we would find an English ship. We thought we were in a land where no one lived. We didn't see any people, only heard wild animals sometimes.
One morning, when we went for fresh water, we saw a big lion on the beach. It was only 20 meters from us. The boy was scared.
When the lion saw us, it ran towards us. We didn't have much time. We had to shoot it. We had 3 guns.
The first bullet hit its leg. The second bullet hit its head, seriously injuring it.
The third bullet finished the animal. We couldn't eat the meat because it wasn't good, but we wanted to take the skin.
We put the skin on top of the boat, and it dried soon.
Chapter 5 Ship.
For the next 10 days, we continued our journey around the coast. We only stopped when we needed fresh water. Soon, we saw that people lived on the land. One day, we saw a big group of people on the beach with many children.
They watched us from the shore. We wanted to stop and go to them, but the boy was scared. The people on the beach wanted to give us some food.
2 men ran to the forest and came back with some dry meat.
We didn't want to go to the beach, and they didn't want to swim to us. We didn't know how to get the food.
The people saw this and put the food on the ground, then went back when they were far from the food.
We took the food, and then we weren't scared of the people. They came to us, and we thanked them, but we had nothing to give them.
At that moment, we saw 2 animals coming from the forest. The animals started to run towards the people.
The people were scared. One animal attacked a young girl. We shot the animal and killed it.
The second animal got scared and ran away. The people were shocked when they heard the gun and saw the dead animal. They were happy that the girl was alive and thanked us.
They gave us more food and water. We had a lot of supplies on the boat, so we didn't stop for 10 days.
We saw some islands the next day. We thought we could visit them. But then the boy started to shout because he saw a ship. He was very scared, thinking it was a pirate ship. We looked at the ship and saw it was Portuguese. No one on the ship noticed us, so we fired a gun.
They heard it and saw us. Soon, we were on the Portuguese ship. They spoke Portuguese, Spanish, and French, but we didn't understand them. Luckily, there was a Scottish sailor on the ship who spoke to us. We told him our story.
The sailors became very nice to us and agreed to take us and the boy on their ship. We were very happy. We offered our things to the captain, but he didn't want to take them for free. He said he wanted to pay for them.
That was very kind of him. We told him he could buy our boat at half the usual price, and he agreed.
The captain wanted to train the boy to be a sailor, but we didn't like the idea. We thought the boy was too young and needed freedom. He didn't need to start another job.
Chapter 6, Wife.
The boy wanted to work for the captain and become a sailor, so he started his training. The ship was on its way to Brazil. We arrived there after 22 days. We said goodbye to the boy and the sailors. Brazil was a new country in South America where many people started a new life.
It was the same for us. We didn't know anyone there. Soon, we met people who had sugar plantations, and they became our friends. We liked Brazil a lot. We quickly learned the language. With some money from the captain,
We bought a small piece of land and started producing sugar. We didn't produce much in the first 2 years, but then our plantation grew fast.
we were single, but our life was good and independent. Our financial situation got better every month. In Brazil, we paid only small taxes, and the society was new.
We didn't have many rules from the government. Soon, we had enough money to hire a lady to clean our house. We asked our friends if they knew a good woman. One of our friends said,
I have an 18-year-old daughter. She could work for you, and she is also a very good cook. The next day, his daughter came to my house. She was friendly, but a little shy. She was also a very pretty girl. We talked for a short time, and I told her what I needed. The next day, she came to my house. She cleaned the dirty floor and furniture and took out the rubbish. She came to my house every Monday and Thursday morning. She stayed for 4 hours. She cleaned the house and cooked for me. She also fed my cat. I was always happy to see her. Sometimes we had breakfast or lunch together and talked. Then she was ill for 1 week and couldn't come. I felt strange when she wasn't there. I missed her a lot. I thought maybe I loved her. A week later, she came back. I was really happy to see her. She was happy too. I hugged her. Then I kissed her. It was a long kiss. 2 weeks later, I went to her father's house and asked if I could marry his daughter. He was quiet, and I waited for his reaction. Then he said, I agree. I was the happiest man in the world. 2 months later, I married my friend's daughter. We started to plan a family. This period of my life was great. We had big plans for our family and our plantation. We needed a bigger house. To afford a bigger house, I thought about doing business in Africa. I could make a lot of money in Africa. I quickly talked about Africa with my friends. Some of them liked the idea. Chapter 7, Hurricane. One day, 3 friends came to my house. They said they wanted to go to Africa and asked if I wanted to join them. I said yes. We started to get everything ready for the trip. Soon, we were ready. I said goodbye to my wife, and we started our journey. We planned to be back in 2 months. We left Brazil on the 1st of September, 1655. Our ship was very big, but we were only 17 men. The ship was full of things for business like cups, glass, mirrors, knives, and other products. The weather was good, but very hot. A week into our journey, a hurricane came. It was very strong. Our ship was in danger. When the hurricane passed, we saw that we were near the northern part of South America, close to the Orinoco River. This wasn't part of our plan. The ship was broken, and we couldn't go to Africa. The captain wanted to go back and fix the ship, but I didn't want to go back. We talked and decided to go to Barbados to fix the ship there. Before we got to Barbados, a second hurricane came in the evening. The wind was very strong and the waves were big. Then one man shouted, "Land!" When the man shouted, "Land!" the ship stopped. The sea wasn't deep enough. It was bad for our broken ship. The ship could break any second. We had to go on a smaller boat. This was very dangerous. The boat was very small for 17 men, but we had to do it to save our lives. So, we were on a small boat. The waves were very big and the wind was very strong. The wind pushed us towards big rocks. We knew we would crash soon. Suddenly, a big wave came and overturned the boat. I was underwater and couldn't breathe. I didn't see the other men or the boat. Then my head was above water for a short moment and I could breathe. I saw a little beach between the rocks. A big wave pushed me to the beach. I was still in the water, but I felt land under my feet. I knew I had to stand up and get out of the water before another wave came. But my body was weak and I couldn't stand up fast. Another wave came and I was underwater again and couldn't breathe. A wave threw me back on the beach. I tried to get up and move further from the sea. I moved 10 meters and was safe, but my arms and legs were very weak. I fell and didn't move for a while. After some time, I got up. I looked for the others, but I couldn't find them. Chapter 8, Island. I was probably the only person alive. All my friends were dead. I only found 3 hats and 2 shoes on the beach. It was horrible for me. The weather was still very bad, but the waves weren't so big. I saw the ship far from the land. I looked around and had almost nothing. I was wet and had no other clothes. I had nothing to eat or drink. I had no good weapon, only a little knife which I found in my pocket. The situation was really bad. How could I survive with only a little knife? First, I tried to find some fresh water. I found a small river and drank the water. I was scared of dangerous animals, so I made a weapon from a piece of wood. I spent the night in a large tree. When I woke up the next morning, the sea was calm. I could still see the ship. I needed to get some things from the ship. I took off my clothes and swam to it. I didn't see a way inside the big ship, so I swam around it twice. Then I saw a rope on one side. I used the rope to get up. The ship was empty. I tried to find some food. I was lucky. Some food on the ship was dry. I also found a bottle of rum and took it with me. Then I heard a noise. Was someone else on the ship? It couldn't be one of my friends. They were all dead. I was a bit scared. I wonder where I heard the noise and saw it was a dog. It was our captain's dog. Now I had a friend. I wasn't alone anymore. I had to carry the food, rum, and the dog to the beach, but I didn't have a small boat. I had to make a simple wooden platform to float. I found some wood and used it to make a raft. I also needed clothes, so I started looking for some. While searching, I found clothes and also a box with tools. Near the box, there was a nice carpet. I found 4 guns and dry gunpowder too. I put everything on the raft. The sea was calm, and the wind was blowing toward the land. This was good. Soon, I reached the beach. I started looking for a place to stay. I saw a hill and thought I could see the area better from the top. I took a gun and walked toward the hill. When I reached the top, I saw the sea all around me. I was on an island. I saw 2 small islands nearby, one to the north and one to the west. To the south, I saw a large land about 100 kilometers away. To the east, there was only the ocean. I didn't see any signs of people, only wild animals. Chapter 9, The Tent. On my way back from the hill, I saw many birds. I didn't know their names or if their meat was safe to eat. I killed one bird, but its meat wasn't good. I returned to the raft and moved my things further into the island. I planned to go back to the ship the next day to bring all the useful items to the island before the next storm destroyed the ship completely. I built a small tent near the beach. I put all the things that could be ruined by rain or sun inside the tent. Night was approaching, so I laid some clothes on the ground to sleep on. I placed two guns next to my left shoulder and two next to my right shoulder. I was surrounded by guns as I prepared to sleep. I felt safe. I was tired from all the work, so I fell asleep quickly. The next day, I swam back to the ship. I made a second raft and loaded it with many items. I was especially happy to bring back 7 new guns and some beds. I got everything safely to the beach. The following day, I went to the ship again and brought back many useful tools and objects. For example, I found a lot of candles which I needed on the island. I also discovered 2 big boxes of tea. I made several trips to the ship. One day, I found a closed box. Under the box, I discovered a key. When I opened it, I saw coins from Europe and Brazil. The money was useless on the island, but I took it anyway. I also found playing cards with pictures of kings, queens, and other people. I thought the cards could be fun for playing games. The next day, dark clouds appeared in the sky. They grew bigger and darker, and the wind became stronger. I visited the ship again, but didn't make a raft because a storm was near. A raft could break easily in the storm. I swam back to the beach as the wind became very strong. That night, I stayed safe inside my little tent. The next morning, I saw that the ship was gone. I realized I might be on the island for a long time. I decided to make a better place to live. I wanted it to be safe and comfortable. I thought about looking for a cave or building a bigger tent, or maybe both. The place needed to be near fresh water, in the shade, and easy to protect. I also wanted a place with a view of the sea, so I could watch for ships. I found a good spot next to a big hill. The hill protected me on one side, and I built a fence around the other sides. The fence didn't have a door. Instead, I used a ladder to climb over it when I needed to go in or out. I moved all my things inside the fence and started working on more plans. I built 2 tents. One tent was big and the other was smaller. The smaller tent was inside the bigger one. Chapter 10, Calendar. The bigger tent protected the gunpowder and food from the rain. I lived in the smaller tent. When the tents were finished, I began digging a cave at the bottom of the hill. I wanted to use the cave to store food. As I dug, I carried stones and earth from the cave to the fence area. I used them to make a terrace inside the fence. One day, while I was still working on the cave, a storm came. There was lightning, and I became very scared. I thought the lightning might hit one of the big boxes of gunpowder. If that happened, it could explode, destroy everything, and even kill me. I knew I had to do something quickly. After the storm passed, I opened the boxes of gunpowder. I divided the gunpowder into smaller boxes and bags. Then, I hid these in the rocks around the area. I had so much gunpowder that this job took me 3 days. I also hunted every day. Hunting gave me a break from hard work, and I needed meat to eat. As I hunted, I learned more about the island and its animals. I discovered some goats and hunted them for meat. After that, I had enough food. Even though I was busy, I felt sad sometimes. I often thought about my wife and missed her deeply. I thought about my friends in Brazil and my parents. Living alone on this island felt meaningless at times. I realized that traveling by sea could completely change your life. It could bring great things, but it could also bring disaster. I knew my friends from the ship were dead, and I was the only one alive. I felt lucky to be alive, and I was also thankful for the things I had: food, guns, and clothes. Without them, I wouldn't have survived. I decided to make a big cross and put it on the beach near the spot where I first arrived on the island. On the cross, I wrote the date of my arrival, September 30th, 1659. The cross became my calendar. I made a small cut in it every day, and every seventh cut was longer to mark the end of the week. The first day of each month was also marked with a longer cut. One day, I started thinking about my situation. Negative thoughts filled my mind, and I knew this wasn't good for me. I decided to make a list of the good and bad things in my life. On the bad side, I was completely alone on the island, with no one to talk to. The chances of seeing England again were very small. But on the good side, I was alive, safe, and free. I had food to eat and didn't really need many clothes on this island. I also had my dog, who was a great companion. He understood some words like sit down, come here, bring it, don't do it, don't jump, let's eat, let's run. This made me happy. The list showed me that my life wasn't perfect, but there were good things in it. I decided to focus on the positives and try to stay hopeful. I kept improving my place, making it better and better. I worked on expanding the cave to create more space. The extra space helped me keep all my belongings organized. Chapter 11 book. I decided to make some furniture. I needed a chair and a table. I used wood from the rafts and the ship. It took me 5 days to finish the chair and table. After that, I made shelves inside the cave. I placed my tools on the shelves and stored my clothes and guns in the cave as well. I hung the guns on the walls. When my work was done, I felt very pleased. Everything was well organized and I could easily find what I needed. I also decided to write a book about my life on the island. In the book, I described my days and started with my first day on the island. I wrote down everything I could remember. Writing helped me organize my thoughts and focus on the positive. At first, I wrote one page every day. But when I reached the present, I wrote only one page each week, recording only the important events. Over time, my days became similar, but they were never boring. There was always something to do. Every morning, I walked for a few hours. Then I worked until noon. After lunch, I slept for 2 hours before continuing my work until evening. I spent a lot of time making the cave bigger using the tools I had. I wanted the cave to be spacious because it served as my kitchen, living room, cellar, and sometimes my bedroom, all in one. When the cave was almost finished, I felt proud of the progress I had made. One day, a large amount of earth fell from one side of the cave. I wasn't inside when it happened, so I was lucky. If it had fallen on me, I could have died. First, I cleaned up the cave. Then, I decided to put long wooden boards on the walls and ceiling to prevent it from happening again. This work took me about a week. In December, I continued working in my small camp. For 20 days, it rained day and night. The weather wasn't good, but it was still warm, so I worked inside. It was never cold on the island, which was a blessing. At the end of December, I killed a goat and injured another one. The injured goat had a broken leg and couldn't walk. I took the goat back to my camp. and cared for it. After 2 weeks, the goat wasn't scared of me anymore and started eating from my hand. This made me think about keeping animals. If I ran out of gunpowder, having animals could provide food. In January, I explored the island and found more goats in the center. These goats were very shy, and it was hard to get close to them. I wanted to try domesticating some goats, but I needed the right opportunity. I came up with a plan and returned the next day with my dog, my hunting partner. When we arrived, I told my dog to sit down, wait, and not move. I walked a large circle around the goats, keeping a big distance. Chapter 12: Corn. I made sure the goats were between me and my dog. Then I hid behind a tree and shouted, "Come here!" My dog ran toward me, and the goats ran in my direction too. I stayed hidden behind the tree. When one goat came close, I jumped and grabbed its leg. But the goat kicked me in the nose with its other leg. It hurt a lot, and I had to let go. The goat ran away quickly. We didn't catch any goats that day. I realized this wasn't a good method. Frustrated but determined, I told my dog, "Let's go home." I realized I needed some rest after all my hard work. From January to March, I focused on building my fence. It took a long time because I wanted it to be very strong. During this time, I discovered pigeons on the island. They didn't live in trees but in holes in the rocks. They were easy to catch, and their meat was delicious. I could also cook and eat their eggs. One day, while working on my fence, I found a small bag. I remembered it once held corn, but now it was filled with leaves and dust. I emptied the bag outside my camp because I needed it to store gunpowder. This happened just before the rains. A month later, I noticed some green leaves growing in that spot. It was young corn. Words couldn't describe how happy I was. Having corn meant I could bake bread in the future. It was an incredible discovery. On March 16th, something terrifying happened. I was inside my cave when pieces of earth started falling from the ceiling. I ran outside in fear, worried that my hard work would be destroyed. Then I noticed the ground shaking everywhere. It was an earthquake. I was shocked and scared as large stones fell from the hill. Thankfully, they didn't hit my tent. The earthquake ended quickly, but I was too scared to go back inside the cave. I sat on the ground in front of my tent, thinking about what to do. The cave didn't feel safe anymore in case another earthquake happened. But I didn't want to sleep in the tent either. I decided that the best solution was to build a house. I could use the cave only as a cellar for storage. The next day, I started planning my new home. I started building my house in April, and it took me 3 months to finish. When it was done, I was very happy with my new home. However, at the end of July, I became ill. I had a high fever and couldn't get out of bed. I felt very weak and was unable to do anything. During that time, I had strange and vivid dreams. They didn't make much sense, but they felt real to me. Chapter 13: Dream. One of my dreams was especially strange. In the dream, there was a pub on my island, and I was there wanting to drink some rum. The waitress, however, was very lazy. She sat at the bar doing nothing, which made me angry. Even though I didn't like it, I waited. Then, my wife appeared in the pub and handed me a piece of paper. It was a message from her father. The message said, "Come home. You have to work on the plantations." But I didn't want to go home. I walked into the pub's kitchen, where I found my mother cooking. She was making steaks and soup. I tasted the soup, and it was fantastic. While I was there, 2 Englishmen entered the pub. They wanted to sell me gunpowder. One man looked like a gentleman, but the other was rough and unpleasant. I told the rough man, I'm sorry, I don't need your gunpowder. I already have plenty in my camp. Hearing this, the man became upset. He said, our gunpowder isn't good enough for you? That's why we're here. We traveled all the way from London, and you have to buy it. I replied politely, thank you, but I don't want your gunpowder. The man grew angrier and said terrible things about me. I got angry too, and we started arguing. Eventually, the man lost his temper completely. He threatened to kill me, pulled out his gun, and pointed it at me. I was terrified and began to run. As I fled, he fired a shot at me. That's when the dream ended, leaving me shaken and confused. 1 week later, I woke up. I felt better, but I still needed to rest. I had to sleep a lot. By August, I felt okay again, though I was still a little weak. I knew I needed to do some exercise. For the next 10 days, I walked around the island. This exercise helped me feel stronger. When I felt good again, I decided to explore more of the island. I found an interesting place in the center of the island. It was a valley with a lake. In the valley, I found melons and grapes. The melons were very sweet. There were also apples, oranges, and lemons in the valley. I wanted to take some fruit back home, but I didn't have a big bag. I collected the fruit in one place and went back to my cave to get a bag. When I returned, I saw that the fruit was ruined. Some of it was eaten and some was broken. I thought wild animals had eaten the fruit. Even so, I liked the valley. It was beautiful. I thought about living there, but it was far from the beach. I needed to stay near the beach to watch for ships that could rescue me. Chapter 14. The House. I didn't move to the Fruit Valley, but I decided to build another house there. I started visiting the valley more often. Step by step, I built a small house. Around the house, I made a double fence to protect it like a castle. To go in and out, I used a ladder on the outside and stairs on the inside. This activity took me all of August and the start of September, but I enjoyed it a lot. The Fruit Valley gave me so much energy. I felt healthy and strong there. Sometimes at night, I stayed in the valley and watched the moon and stars. I thought about my wife and my family in England. I knew they could see the same moon and stars, but we couldn't be together. I thought about my family a lot and wished them the best. I also thought about other people who could see the moon. I imagined the places where they lived. This made me feel connected to people everywhere. Sometimes I felt connected to the whole universe. I also thought about God. I had questions for him. I asked, why am I on this island? What is the reason for it? Why am I alive when my friends are not? I didn't have answers, but I trusted God. I believe he had a plan for me. Then the rainy season started. It lasted until the middle of October. This was my first year on the island. When the rains ended, I went back to my house in the valley. I saw that the fence was covered in green leaves. New leaves had grown everywhere. It wasn't just beautiful, it was useful. The leaves hid my house, making it hard to see. The shadows were nice too. I decided to make a similar fence around my first house. When the rainy season ended, I planted my corn seeds. I was afraid something bad might happen, so I only used half of the seeds. This was a good decision. Unfortunately, none of the seeds I planted grew. Before the next rainy season, I planted the second half of the seeds. This time, they grew well. I could say that I now had a small farm on the island. I noticed that the seasons here were different from England. There was no spring, summer, autumn, or winter. Instead, there were 2 rainy seasons and 2 dry seasons. With this knowledge, I could plan the best times to plant seeds. Chapter 15. The Basket. I started taking longer trips around the island. Soon, I realized I needed a basket for these trips. With a basket, I could carry more food and more fruit from the fruit valley. I cut branches from the same tree I used for my fences. After drying the branches, I made a basket. When the basket was ready, I decided to take a long trip around the island. I passed the valley with my second house and came to some grass fields. The fields were flat and full of flowers. They smelled amazing, and many insects were flying around the flowers. I saw some big butterflies with wings as wide as 10 centimeters. Around the fields, there were small trees with nuts. These nuts were different from the ones in England. They had a unique shape and were sweeter. I also saw new animals on this part of the island. There were many parrots, rabbits, and gray cats. I even caught one parrot and brought it with me. The parrot had many bright colors on its body. I saw red, green, purple, orange, blue, pink, and yellow on the parrot. In this part of the island, there were also many turtles and birds. It was a nicer area, and there was more food, but I didn't want to move. On the way back, my dog caught a young goat. I saved the goat and took it with me. I wanted to keep goats, and now I had another chance. I left the goat at my valley home while I prepared a space for it at my first home. I was so tired from the trip that I spent the whole day relaxing. I made a cage for the parrot and brought the goat to my first home. The goat started to calm down. I also made a map of the island and added the new places I had discovered. Time passed quickly, and it was September again, my second year on the island. I wasn't as sad as I was at the beginning. I had accepted my situation and felt happy with what I had. My days were simple and similar. I hunted in the morning, cooked at noon, relaxed in the afternoon when the sun was hot, and worked in the evening. I also taught the parrot to say its name. His name was Pole. In November and December, my cornfields kept me busy. Wild goats and rabbits started eating the young plants. I didn't want to lose my corn, so I quickly built a fence around the field. I added a gate that I could open easily. I put my dog inside the fence to protect the corn at night. The corn grew tall, but another problem came. Birds started eating the seeds. I shot some birds to protect my corn and kept watching the field until all the birds were gone. Chapter 16. Bread. At the end of December, I harvested my first corn. There wasn't much of it, so I didn't want to eat it. Instead, I decided to keep all the seeds to plant again and grow more corn later. I realized I would need pots to store the seeds, so I started looking for clay around the island. I found some clay and tried to make a pot, but I failed at first. In England, people made beautiful pots, but I didn't know the full process. Still, I kept trying. After 2 months of experimenting, I finally made 2 large pots. I placed each pot into a round basket and added dry grass between the basket and the pot to protect them. Next, I started making smaller pots, and their quality slowly improved. I also made long, shallow pots to hold seawater. When the water evaporated, I collected the salt. One day, I noticed a broken piece of pot in the fire. The fire had made the piece as hard as stone and very red. This gave me an idea. I built a fire around one of my pots, and after a few hours, the pot became very hard. I was happy with the result. Then I thought about how to make flour from seeds. I took a big piece of hardwood and carved a hole into it. Using another piece of hardwood, I crushed the seeds in the hole. The flour collected at the bottom. I also realized I would need something to bake bread. An idea started forming in my mind. I mixed the flour with water. Then I took 2 stones and placed them near the fire. When the stones were very hot, I put the bread dough between them. This was how I made my first bread on the island. It happened during my 3rd year there. The bread wasn't perfect, but I liked it because it was my first bread in a long time. I started thinking about traveling around the island by sea. I thought it was possible to make a canoe from a big tree. I found a large tree, cut it down, and began carving a hole in it. One day, while working on the canoe, I realized I didn't know how to move it from the forest to the beach. I tried everything I could think of, even digging a channel, but it was no use. There was a hill between the forest and the beach. I felt very sad about leaving the canoe in the forest. Many days of hard work were wasted. I couldn't believe I had made such a mistake. I told myself I needed to plan better next time. Chapter 17: The Canoe. During my 4th year on the island, my clothes had become very old. I started using animal skins to make new clothes. I made a cap and other clothing from the skins. These clothes kept me cool in the hot sun and protected me from the heavy rain. Still, the clothes weren't enough. I also needed an umbrella. It took some time to make one, but I succeeded. By then, I was quite happy with my life on the island. I had everything I needed. My life on the island continued for the next 5 years. During this time, I decided to make a new canoe. The new canoe was smaller, so it was easier to move. I wanted to travel around the island in it. When the canoe was finished, I packed food, water, and tools. I was ready for the trip. I wanted to test if I could go all the way around the island in the canoe. The trip started during my 6th year on the island, on June 6th. At the beginning, it was very difficult. I faced danger as soon as I started. I had to go around some rocks in the sea, and when I tried to return to the coast, I noticed a strong current. The current was pulling me away from the island. The situation was horrible. I was scared and thought I would die in the open sea. I didn't have enough food or water for a long journey. I fought the current as hard as I could for 2 hours. Finally, I got close to my island again. I felt relieved and proud. I was stronger than the currents, and that made me feel good. As I continued my trip, I found a small river that went further into the island. I followed it, but soon the river became too narrow and stones blocked the way. I couldn't go further, so I got out of the canoe to explore the area. This part of the island wasn't far from the areas I already knew. I even found a path that led to my valley house. I was so tired from the trip that I fell asleep. I woke up to a voice calling my name. Sam, where are you? Sam, where are you? At first, I was scared, but then I saw my parrot Pole sitting on top of the fence. He had learned the sentence from me and said it with the same intonation as I did. I was surprised and happy to see him there. I wondered why Pole, my parrot, wasn't at home, but I was happy to hear someone talking to me. I left the canoe where it was and went back home with the parrot. After that trip, I didn't make another one for a whole year. I stayed at home most of the time, making tools, pots, and better baskets. Chapter 18: The Foot. It had been 11 years since I first arrived on the island. One day, I realized I didn't have much gunpowder left, and this started to worry me. I needed gunpowder to hunt animals. My first goat was very old, and it was too late to find a male goat for her. I wanted meat, but I couldn't kill her. Eventually, she died naturally. I started to think about what I would do when I ran out of gunpowder. I decided to make traps to catch animals. At first, I wasn't successful, but eventually, I caught 3 young goats. one male and two females. I took them home and kept them in a small fenced area. However, the area was too small for them. So I spent 3 months building a larger fence around a big area with plenty of grass and water. Over time, the young goats became calm and friendly. Soon, they ate from my hand. After 2 years, I had 12 goats, and in 3 years, I had more than 20. I now had plenty of milk and meat. I started experimenting and learned how to make cheese and butter. My table was full, and I had many animals around me. I had my old dog, the goats, and Pole, my parrot, but even with all this, I still missed having someone to talk to. One day, I went to the part of the sea with the strong current. On the way, I thought about how strange I looked. I wore a big hat, a short jacket, and short trousers, all made from animal skin. I didn't have socks or shoes, but I wrapped goat skins around my feet. I had two belts, one for my gun and knife, and one for gunpowder. I also carried a basket on my back and an umbrella over my head. My beard was very long. I realized that life on the island had completely changed me. One day, as I walked on the beach to check my canoe, I saw something surprising, a human footprint in the sand. I looked around, but I didn't see anyone. I was scared and ran back to my house. That night, I was so frightened that I couldn't sleep. I started to think that maybe it was just my imagination, or perhaps the footprint was my own, and I was being silly. This thought calmed me. I left my house the next day to check the footprint again. Chapter 19, Cannibals. When I got to the footprint, I saw that it was much bigger than my foot. It couldn't be mine. I was scared again and started to panic. I thought about destroying my cornfields and the valley house to hide any signs of my activity on the island. I was so afraid that I didn't sleep all night. In the morning, I managed to get some rest, and when I woke up, I felt calmer. I realized it wasn't strange that people might live on nearby islands. I thought, maybe this is their first visit here, and maybe they won't come back. I felt better after thinking that the visitors might not return, but I still wanted to be safe. Over the next month, I built another fence around my house. I made holes in the fence so I could fire my guns if I was attacked. Now my house was very well protected, and nobody could easily get close to me. I also worried about my goats. To keep them safe, I divided them into two groups. I built another smaller fenced area in a different part of the island and moved one group of goats there. It took a lot of time, but I was happy that my animals were safe. In the 16th year of my life on the island, something very sad happened. My dog died. I cried for 3 days. I went to my goats and talked to them about how sad I was. Of course, they didn't understand my words, but I felt like they understood my emotions. They were calm and quiet, almost as if they felt my sadness. 2 years after I saw the footprint in the sand, I was walking on the beach one day when I thought I saw a canoe far out at sea. I wasn't sure, so I kept walking. Then I saw something that shocked me. The beach was covered with parts of human bodies. Heads, hands, feet, fingers, and teeth were scattered everywhere. There was also a black spot where a fire had burned. I felt both angry and scared. They had been here again. I couldn't look at the horrible scene for long. I felt sick to my stomach. I went home and thought about what to do. I decided not to go to sea with my canoe because I had no chance against a group of cannibals in the open water. I also decided not to use guns because the sound was too loud and might attract attention. I always carried guns to protect myself. I started to think that maybe one day I could kill some of the cannibals and save their prisoners. I began searching for a hiding spot near the beach to prepare for an attack. But then I changed my mind. I thought it might not be a good idea to fight the cannibals. I didn't know these people, and they hadn't attacked me. It didn't seem right to attack them. In the end, I stopped making plans and decided I would only act if they attacked me first. Chapter 20: The Cave. I tried to keep my activities on the island hidden as much as possible. I was very careful. I made sure not to make loud noises. I worried when I lit a fire, but I needed it to cook food. When I made a fire, I kept the smoke small so it wouldn't go high in the air where it could be seen. One day, I found a small cave in the forest near the beach. I went inside, but when my eyes got used to the dark, I saw two eyes staring at me. I was so scared I ran outside. I waited for a while, but nothing happened. Slowly, I went back to the cave entrance and listened. I heard a noise like someone injured was inside. I took my gun and went in carefully. When I could see clearly, I realized it was an old goat. It was sick and dying in the cave. The next day, I came back and saw that the goat had died. I looked around and thought the cave was very safe. It was a good hiding spot near the beach. So, I brought some of my guns there. I also kept some gunpowder in the cave. It had been 23 years since I first arrived on this island. By now, I was living comfortably. I had many animals around me. My parrot Pole could say my name and a few other words very clearly. I also had two more parrots and taught them to say my name. I owned over 30 goats. It was the last month of my 23rd year on the island. Early one morning, I was walking to my fields when I saw a fire on the beach. I quickly returned to my house and prepared all my guns. I took my telescope and went closer to the beach, hiding so I could see what was happening. I saw 9 naked people on the beach. They had 2 canoes and seemed to be waiting for high tide. After they left, I went to the beach. It was covered with blood and bones again. This made me very angry. I decided that the next time I saw the cannibals, I would kill as many as I could. But they didn't come back for a long time. One evening, after a big storm, something strange happened. I heard the sound of a gun at sea. I ran out of my house and saw a light coming from the water. Then, I heard another gunshot. I thought it was a ship in trouble, asking for help. I quickly gathered a lot of dry wood and ran to the beach to make a big fire. The ship must have seen the fire because I saw them shoot again. I thought, this is amazing. I will finally talk to someone tonight. I kept the fire burning until midnight, but nobody came to the beach. It was very strange, and I didn't understand it. I thought maybe I would learn more in the morning. Chapter 21: Visitors. The next morning, I saw the ship. It was stopped far from the beach. The ship looked empty, and I didn't understand why. I thought about the people who fired the gun the night before. I really wanted to talk to someone. I miss talking to real people so much. I decided to take my canoe and go to the ship to see if anyone had survived. When I got closer, I saw that the ship looked Spanish and was completely destroyed. Then I saw a dog on board. The dog was very happy to see me. I gave him bread and water. He was very hungry and thirsty. I looked around the ship, but I found no people. I wondered what had happened to the men from the ship. It was very strange, and I couldn't figure it out. It was a mystery. There were many boxes on the ship. Some were small, and some were big. Many big boxes were full of bottles of alcohol, but they were too heavy for my canoe. I found guns and gunpowder, which were very useful to me. I also found other things I could use and took them back to the island in the evening. I brought back several small boxes with new shirts, gold, silver, and a lot of gunpowder. Gunpowder was very important for me on the island. It was more useful than money or gold. One thing I needed badly was shoes. I found 2 pairs of shoes on the ship and took them with me. I put all my new items in the cave for safety. Over the next few days, I made 5 trips to the ship and took everything I could use. Then, I hid my canoe again. Life went back to normal, but I often thought about the men from the ship and the cannibals on the beach. One night in March, I had a dream. In the dream, 2 canoes full of cannibals came to the beach. One of their prisoners escaped and ran to my house. I saved him, and he became my friend. He helped me cross the dangerous waters around the island. When I woke up, the dream stayed in my mind. I thought that if I could save a prisoner, they might help me escape from the island. I decided to watch the beach more carefully. For the next 2 years, I went to the beach every day, hoping to see the canoes. Then one afternoon, my wish came true. I saw 5 canoes with over 30 men on the beach. There were too many of them for me to attack, so I stayed hidden and watched them with my telescope. The cannibals made a fire and started dancing around it. I noticed 2 other men tied up. They were prisoners. After some time, the cannibals took one of the prisoners to the fire. They beat and killed him, then painted their bodies with his blood. It looked like some kind of performance, but it wasn't a theater. It was real, and it was terrible. The second prisoner sat on the side, waiting. Suddenly, when the cannibals weren't looking, he jumped up and started running away. He ran in my direction. I quickly went to the beach and hid behind a tree. 2 of the cannibals chased after the man. He ran as fast as he could, but they were catching up to him. This was my chance to save him. Chapter 22, Friday. I got ready with 2 guns and waited behind the tree. The prisoner ran straight toward my tree, but he didn't see me. I stayed still. He ran past me and didn't notice I was hiding. When the first cannibal came close, I jumped out from behind the tree. He was shocked, and I shot him. The second cannibal saw what happened and tried to shoot me with an arrow, so I had to shoot him too. The prisoner heard the shots and stopped running. He turned around scared. I smiled to show him it was safe to come closer. Slowly, he walked toward me. He got down on his knees, put his head on the ground, and placed my foot on his head. I told him to stand up, and he did. He looked at the dead cannibals and their bodies. He went to them, examined the holes in their bodies, and seemed very confused. He probably didn't understand how they had died. It was unbelievable to him. He took the arrows from the dead cannibals, and then we hid their bodies in the forest nearby. After that, we went deeper into the forest. I took the man to my cave. It was my secret place where nobody could find us. I gave him bread, meat, and water. He was so tired that he fell asleep almost right away. While he slept, I had a chance to look at him closely. He was young, slim, and very strong. I guess he was about 25 years old. He had long black hair, dark skin, and a kind face. I let him sleep and went outside to watch for cannibals. I stayed near the cave, but nobody came to look for us. 3 hours later, the man came out of the cave. He showed me how happy he was to be alive and safe. I started talking to him and gave him the name Friday because it was Friday when I saved him. I told him my name and taught him how to say yes and no. We stayed in the cave that night. The next day, we climbed to the top of the hill. Using my telescope, I saw that the canoes were gone. We were alone on the island. We carefully went down to the beach. First, we went to where we had hidden the bodies of the dead cannibals. When Friday saw the bodies, he wanted to eat them. I was angry and showed him that eating people was wrong. That's when I realized Friday was also a cannibal. We buried the cannibals instead. Then we walked to the beach. What we saw there was horrible. There were human bones everywhere, and the sand was red with blood. I told Friday to collect all the body parts. I built a big fire and burned everything. After that, we went back to my house. I made a small tent for Friday between the two fences around my house. I took away his weapons because I wanted to feel safe. Later, I realized I didn't need to do that. Friday was a good and honest man. He was like a child to me, and I felt like a father to him. Over time, he showed me that he would even give his life for me. I was very happy to have Friday on the island. I started teaching him how to live like a European. First, I taught him some new words, starting with hi, hello, bye, and thank you. It wasn't easy at first, but I was patient because I was so happy to finally talk to someone. As time passed, Friday and I built a strong bond. He became my loyal companion, and together, we worked to improve our lives on the island. Teaching Friday and sharing our experiences gave me a sense of purpose and hope. Though we faced challenges, we always found strength in each other. In the end, the years on the island taught me that survival isn't just about food, shelter, or safety. It's about connection, trust, and the will to keep going no matter what. With Friday by my side, I felt less alone and life became more meaningful.
Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey of adventure and survival. I hope you enjoyed the story as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. If you want more exciting tales like this one, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more. Until next time, take care and keep chasing your dreams. See you soon.